And when I'm not trying out new wigs and cocktail dresses, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Metro League High School sports are back.
Here's Jordan. Makes a stutter step inside, breaks a tackle. He's off and running. He's going to take it all the way.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio, your home team for Metro League football, basketball, baseball, girls soccer, track and field, bowling, and even more than that. We got you. Watch Metro League High School sports on Rainier Avenue Radio via Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You can listen in right at our website, RainierAvenueRadio.world, or download our app for free to listen and watch. Metro League High School Sports 2021 on RainierAvenueRadio.world, powered by the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, King County for Culture, and the Seattle Mariners.
This is Big Poppy, host of Jazz from the Cabinets. Join me each week for a listening tour of the first century of jazz, an eclectic mix of Dixieland, big band, cool jazz, bebop, contemporary jazz, world jazz, all jazz in all forms. That's Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy on Rainier Avenue Radio, streaming worldwide on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Country Doctor and Carolyn Downs Community Health Centers want you to protect yourself and your loved ones by offering free Moderna or Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. If you are 18 years of age or older, come down on Wednesdays from 1 to 4 p.m. to the McKinney Center, 2120 South Jackson Street for your vaccination. You don't need an appointment or ID or insurance. For information, call 206-709-7198. This message brought to you by Country Doctor, Carolyn Downs Community Health Centers, and as a public service by Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hey! Welcome. This is Brenda Charles Edwards, the host of Seniors Matter. We are live every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on www.RainierAvenueRadio.world, your community radio station. You can also listen to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch TV, and of course the Rainier Avenue Radio app. Seniors Matter invites a variety of guests to discuss issues and activities that may impact the lives of older adults and their families and the community. If you're interested in knowing more about what's the best gift you can give yourself and your loved ones, please join me on Zoom for a group or individual session on end-of-life planning. You can reach me at 206-683-2636. My special guest is Winona Hollins-Haig. She is a co-sponsor with Lillian Hawkins, Second Vice President, 32nd Legislative District, for the resolution of the Washington Equity Now Alliance Executive Order to rescind Executive Order 98-01. Welcome to the show, Winona. It's good to see you again. Okay, so congratulations, Winona, on your work on the Equity Now effort. I understand that you have a personal investment. So, can you tell us what that is? What's your family connection? We seem to be having some technical difficulties right at the moment. Let me see if I can move on and talk about the fact also that Winona is representing the Seattle section of the National Council of Negro Women as a social justice chair. For those of you that may not know, the National Council of Negro Women was founded by Dr. Mary McLeod Methuen in 1935. One of the goals of NCNW is to lead, develop, and advocate for women as they support their families and communities. This also includes civil rights. NCNW unanimously embraces this and authorized our President, Sarah Dean, to send a support letter of endorsement to the governor's office as a part of a coalition of groups who support this executive order. So when Winona comes on the air, we'll be able to talk to her and learn more about how this executive order is going to affect everyone. NCNW is a backer as well as many other groups. And one of the things that the executive orders can positively impact women and minority businesses, seniors, veterans, small mom and pop businesses. We know that our Governor Jay Inslee has signed on to allow Washington State to honor Juneteenth, and that's a big step, to say the least. I understand you that the group that Winona's with would like to have him officially rescind 9801-01 and sign on to the Equity Now resolution before or on the following two key dates for African Americans. The first one being Juneteenth. Now, for those of you that don't know, Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration, of the ending of slavery in the United States. On June 19, 1865, a Union general rode into Galveston, Texas, to announce that the Civil War had ended and slaves had been freed. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation became law in January 1863. That's a little late here. It could not be enforced in places still under Confederate control. Thus, it took over 2 years for approximately 250,000 Texan slaves to learn their freedom had been secured by the government. Wow, that is just absolutely amazing. So, there's also been reports that the MLK Committee and the Martin Luther King Memorial Committee has big plans to commemorate in August. So that's why either date would be a notable choice for the governor to choose to lend his Equity Now endorsement. We are still having technical difficulties. So one of the things that I know has been a question is the impact of the current law, what disparities it's caused, and the $3.9 billion of revenue loss. So why now is a question some people have asked. What's the urgency? How does this urgency connect with the $10 billion of American rescue monies? So if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to Seniors Matter with your host, Brenda Charles Edwards, on www.rainieravenueradio.world, your community radio station. We're here every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also listen to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch TV, the Rainier Avenue Radio App, and Alexa. Do you need financial documents notarized? Are you a senior that needs documents read to you for clarity or completion? Call me, Brenda, at Black Orchid Notary, 206-683-2636. Tell me where, I'll meet you there. So my guest is having technical difficulties, so I'm going to talk to you about the importance of having a notary during the coronavirus. As a notary public, I'm mobile, and I also handle real estate documents. And as you know, the interest rates are really low right now, and so a lot of people are refinancing. And it is a seller's market. I read an interesting article today about if you put your house on the market on a Thursday, you get a better chance of getting more people to come to your house for an open house than you do if it's put on during the weekend, because people are sitting down making lists of what houses they would be interested in, and then also what houses have the best rate. So as a notary public, I am responsible. I'm supposed to be a responsible person that's been appointed by the state government to witness the signing of important documents, which loan documents are, and administer oaths. Then you say, why are documents notarized? And the main reason is to deter fraud. An impartial witness, who is the notary, ensures that the signers have entered into agreements knowingly and willingly. Unfortunately, I have experienced some circumstances where the party that's to be signing does not know what they're doing. I was called to a nursing home at one time, and the family was there, and their mother was in her end stage of life, and they said that she wanted to make some changes to her will. So one of the things that I do, I have to, by law, make sure that the person knows what they're doing and they're not under any duress, because that would create fraud. So I talked to this lady, and she did not understand anything that I was saying. So I declined to notarize her documents. Well, when I told the family that I wasn't going to be able to notarize her documents, needless to say, they called me everything but a child of God. Welcome, Winona. Good to see you. Is your mic on?
Nice to be here.
Good, good. So
yes, can you hear me?
I hear you just perfectly. So I want to congratulate you on your work on the Equity Now effort. I understand you have a personal investment. Can you share your family connection to this effort?
Yes, thank you. And sorry for any technical issues. I had to go to my laptop but to be successful today. But I'm here. And the reason that basically I'm Winona Hollins Haig, and I'm serving as the chair for the NCNW Social Justice Committee. And I'm also the vice chair of the Diversity and Inclusion for the 32nd District Democrats. And I am also a PCO for my neighborhood, which is Anasardi. I'm happy to be invited today to expound a little bit on what WA Equity Now is. And the personal connection I have to this is that my late aunt, Jackie Jones Walsh, who the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkin, declared a Jackie Jones Walsh Spirit Day this past April 27th in honor of the work that she did as a civil activist on this issue and many more. And I have stayed involved with this effort since my aunt and I were successful in bringing to this state the law I-1000, which did pass, incidentally. The legislature passed it. Obviously, we know that when it came to voting time, the referendum took it out, but the concept is still here. And that's why we're here today, to talk about WA Equity Now. What this is in essence, it's a request for our Governor Inslee, to use his executive powers to rescind a previous governor's executive order, which was 9801. And the 9801 order was overextended and misinterpreted and has become I would say, knee on our neck for the last 23 years. So we have been cast under the auspices of I-200. Now, many of us will know what I-200 is. It has hit us as a community and as a people very hard for 23 years because the law is misinterpreted. Now, what we can do with this 9801, which it was incorrectly implemented under the RCW Code 4960-400, and it went beyond the parameters of I-200, as it was interpreted by the Washington State Supreme Court in 2003, and again by our own sitting Washington State Attorney General in 2017. So there are two reasons why we are going forward with this, asking Governor Inslee to use its executive power and authority to rescind the previous governor's 9801 draft that proposes that we are not able to equally share in this in this governance. So basically, today we have a website which is under waequitynow.com. Go to that. You will be greeted there with a lot of supporters of this effort. And I'm proud to say that along with Lillian Hawkins, who is the second vice president, young sister, second vice president of the 32nd District, she and I together co-sponsored the effort to bring this to the attention of the 32nd District. It was unanimously passed in our district, and mind you, my district is not a majority district, and so people understand there's an opportunity now to go forward with all of the things that are happening in our nation. How can we not, when we see something as simple to rectify as this, not move forward as a state, as a people here in Washington State? Now, I really want to talk a little faster because I realize some of our time has been compromised, and I do want to make sure we get to why now. Why now are we addressing this? Well, I'm glad you asked, because right now, as of March, our state, Washington State, was the recipient of what we call now, and what you would know as the American Rescue Plan. So that means that in March, Washington State received to our budget over $10 billion for state and local governments, for childcare, for K through 12 schools, and higher ed. This immediate funding is immediate jobs, which need to be hired under affirmative action laws, not under what's on the books right now with Executive Order 9801, which is I-200. Okay? We're not asking to rescind, take I-200 off the books. We're asking you to use the interpretation that the Washington courts have garnered, as well as our own Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, in his decision in 2017, that it is not illegal to have affirmative action, as long as the affirmative action doesn't take two equally comparable candidates and then use a preference. For example, because I am a woman of color, from other communities, I should get a preference just because of that. No, that is not what the interpretation of the law is. And that's why people were so afraid of implementing or keeping I-1000 on the books, because it was misinterpreted. Now we're smart enough and ready to come back and challenge this. And our governor, being the person that he is, and progressive as he is, I'm sure he will, when this gets to his desk, will look kindly and affirmatively on that. But we need your help. We want to make sure that that does happen. And the way it happens is when people like us get involved. The regular people out here get involved. Now, just keep in mind, the federal and the state courts favor affirmative action now. We could lose that advantage next year when the 6-3 conservative majority on the U.S. Supreme Court rules on the Asian Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard affirmative action case. Now, I know you all know about that. You remember when we first started I-1000, those folks from there came to Washington State saying, you shouldn't have a preference. You should be pulled up by your own bootstraps. Well, let's look at it this way. We don't have any boots. For 23 years, you've taken our boots away. Now it's time for our seniors, for our veterans, for our women, minority contractors, for all people, not just people of color, but for all people who have been disenfranchised because of the misinterpretation of the current sitting law, I-200. It's got to go, and it's got to go now. You can help me. I can help you. We can help our community. We can help each other. All we have to do is educate ourselves. Go to the website, waequity.now. Take a look at what, I don't know if you have a chat for me to put that in, Brenda, but take a look at what's at stake here. Now, let me tell you, not only did 32nd District unanimously vote to support this, we went on to the Snohomish County Democrats, and they unanimously supported this effort. And then we didn't stop there. We went to the King County Democrats meeting, and they support this effort. And we're on our way to Pierce County, June 10th. So if you're on here and you live South Kent, in that area, please be advised, it's your time to talk to your legislators, bring them on board. Now, you may have some people, some legislators and some people who say, again, well, why now? What is the rush? The rush is the $10 billion that stands to be allocated here in the community. And it stands right now to be allocated under the current law. The current law is not a well-interpreted law, and it is, to be exact, I'll give you proof. The Washington State Office of Women and Minority Business Enterprise, in their most recent statistics, cited that we have actually lost, what was it? We've actually lost, I believe, let me just look at my notes here so I don't quote something that is not true, but we've lost over $3 billion just being not at the table. And that hurts. That hits us right in the pocketbook. And the efforts that we're trying to do right now, look at our future, look at our children, look at the trades, look at the people that need to have an opportunity to gain economic stability. What are we doing? After this pandemic, there is no time to wait. We must say we're ready. Let's march forward. Let's look at equality. Let's look at diversity, inclusion, and equity here in the state of Washington. That's what's at stake.
So Winona,
yes.
Let me interrupt you for a second, because you were saying earlier, I was telling the audience that you said there are two key dates for when you would like to have the governor sign this. One is Juneteenth, and the other one is when the MLK committee is working on. So do you want to elaborate on that a little bit before we have to go?
Yeah, well, sooner is better, because keep in mind, the money is already in the state coffers. How it will be distributed will depend on what law is the sitting law. If we get that Executive Order 9801 rescinded now, and obviously I'm a proponent of having it, wouldn't that be awesome here in the state of Washington to have it done during Juneteenth? Well, keep in mind, our progressive governor, Jay Inslee, has recognized Juneteenth. So wouldn't it be fitting just to, put a handshake on that right here in the state of Washington? So that's my personal idea of when we need to get it signed, how soon we can get it signed. Personally, it could be signed any day of the week leading up to Juneteenth, but it would just be, to me, historic, perhaps, to do it on Juneteenth. And of course, we know that Eddie Rye, all of the Claude Burfict, the NAACP, many of the diversity, Democrats for Diversity, all the other groups are all behind this, and they're all saying now is the time. Now, again, we have the big, obviously, every August we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, and we always do a big thing splash here in the state. That would be good. But, let's get it done. Let's get it done now. And let's get it done because it's the right thing to do. Now, again, if we move forward on this, and we are moving forward, we just hope everybody else catches up. It would be really nice to add the opportunity to designate an Office of Equity, a new Office of Equity that would come with this order, that would help us implement this at a faster rate. And again, we want to establish a goal by June 30th of 2024 that diversity in Washington state and local government workforces shall reflect no less than the same percentage of women and people of color who reside in our state population based on the current United States Census. That's why census matters.
Right.
And last but not least, We want to resolve the past concerns of veterans and others who have the restorative action that will allow us that right now standing, there is a clause that says nothing in this section shall prohibit a veteran as defined in RCW 4104 and their spouses, widows, widowers from receiving a veteran preference in public education, public employment, public contracting to which they are currently entitled under the federal state law. We just want to put that in there so people know we're not taking away anything. We're proposing to expand and expound on things that are currently there. That's my story.
So, Winona, are there any plans right now how to divvy up that $10 billion from the American Rescue monies for us in the state of Washington?
Just as I mentioned before, the American Rescue money is from the feds, and that money will go to it's a state and local government. So our state will get some, local governments will get some. As you remember, when we had the stimulus money, some of this is not the first time, but this was the bigger one that President Biden proposed. But remember, before there were disbursements where people got a little bit of a check here or there or whatever, received benefit from it. But keep in mind that 2,400 or whatever, 18 or 1,000 or whatever that is nothing compared to the amount of loss we've endured over 23 years collectively of not being at the table, not having the opportunity to bid on contracts, not being there because the state was so worried about, quote unquote, that we would get a preference because of color or being a woman or being in another gay or other type of preference. That's all gone. It should be gone, and it needs to stop right now. 9801 was misinterpreting the law. So people have been afraid of saying we have to have I-200 to protect ourselves, and this also, most importantly, impacts the seats that we have and don't have in the University of Washington, Seattle University, Washington State, all of these universities. There's been this disproportionate threat that we might get a seat instead of someone that is a quote unquote equally certified for that seat or whatever, that there would be a preference because of color. That is not what this is. And that's why we've been living with a knee on our neck for 23 years under that auspicious thought that this is what it's about. We need to channel this out, erase it from the slate, and move forward collectively. We have to create a healing and reconciliation and compensation movement so that we can come back and be exactly what we're trying to be as a informed state here in Washington. We have a new director of the Office of Equity, Dr. Karen Johnson, who's working very hard. We're in negotiations with her office, with the governor's staff. There are meetings so that we can make sure that everyone is brought on and brought on board. The former Representative Jesse Wineberry, attorney here, along with Lynn French, attorney, and some of the other people, Carl Livingston, Eddie Rye, Hayward, Claude Burfick, Carolyn Riley Payne, and we're talking with labor. We've had meetings with the Washington State Labor Council, where my aunt, the late Jackie Jones Walsh, was on the Labor Council representing CLUE. These are the people, the players that are coming on board. Now, when you look up on the website, the WA, WAEQUITY now.com, you will see the number of people that have already come on board and embraced this. And again, if you're living south, we are asking you to talk with your legislators and to come on board with us with this effort. I want to thank the NCNW, where I am the Society and Social Justice Chair. And Brenda's actually a member of an officer in that organization. And we want to thank the president, Sarah Dean, and Yvonne Carr, and Cherie Rowe Proctor, because they brought this initiative to the group, and the group unanimously supported the effort as well. So that's all we're asking today. We're asking you to take note.
On that note, dear, I'm going to have to say goodbye because our time is up. And, everybody stay woke, support this. And thank you to my audience for listening. Thank you to Winona for coming. Up next is a coronavirus special edition. Stay safe. Live your life like it's golden. Talk to you next week. Bye, Winona.
Bye. Thank you.
This is Paul